Talk about, though, how do we protect our retirement money, if we fall ill, or if after one of us passes away, our surviving spouse falls ill, and how do we protect it from long-term care risk? See, as long as it's in your IRA, it is not protected if you fall ill. In fact, in Colorado, they want you to use all the way down to whatever the levels are, whether you're married or not, of that money until you can go on a program such as Medicaid. It is what we call accountable resource for your qualification for Medicaid. So they want you to spend it. Now, there are people out there that will tell you, oh no, if you annuitize it or you turn it into an annuity, it will work. I will give you the great attorney answer. It depends. Just because you're taking RMDs does not make that not accountable resource here in Colorado. Just because you're taking withdrawals from that account, or you have set up withdrawals from that, what we call deferred annuity. So you set it in there, you waited a period of time, and now you're taking withdrawals from it. That does not get rid of the qualification that it is still in your estate for the purposes of paying for your long-term care needs. So therefore, those are counted as resources. I had someone here recently where financial advisor said, oh, you see, I pulled this up on the internet. It says if it's an IRA is in an annuity, that is not a counted resource. Not in Colorado, depending on what kind of annuity it is. The only kind of annuity that potentially would work would be one that has been what is called annuitized, or has been set up as a single premium immediate annuity, meaning you can't go in easily and grab a chunk of money. If you're just taking out $5,000 a year because of something in your IRA or in that annuity that you have, that does not mean that it would not still qualify as a resource. It has to be something where you can't go grab a big chunk of money. So you cannot protect your IRA money until you pay Uncle Sam their share. See, you can't put an IRA into any kind of trust until you've died, or until you took the money out of the IRA. See, the I stands for individual, meaning it has to stay in your name. It cannot go into the name of anything else other than you. So what I've seen and what I've talked about with people is, when we're sitting down and saying we want to try to protect our estate, we're concerned about long-term care risk for either me or my spouse. How do we do it? Well, we obviously use trusts and other kinds of things in our office as a pre-protection, but the IRAs can't go in there. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll come up with a strategy. We'll come up with a strategy of maybe we start taking out more of this right now so that we can make it easier to protect it at a time that we want to move it into that trust if we're doing a trust for protections. Or what if we want to try to protect it after we're gone? So what if I was to die first and my wife was not in good health? Would I not want to try to protect it for her? Well, if it's in an IRA, you're going to get a lot of pushback from tax professionals, financial advisors, even attorneys for that matter, saying, well, there's good tax reasons to leave it to your spouse directly because they can roll it over, they don't have to force out distributions, etc. And while those sentiments are not incorrect, sometimes they may be incorrect as it pertains to actually protecting it. So if you want to try to do some of those protections, you have to have a forward-looking attitude. Maybe you want to start taking out more every year so that now we can move it over into a non-IRA account, and then at some point we could put that into an asset protection trust like we do in our office to protect from long-term care risk. Or maybe you want to just have it in a non-IRA account so that if you need it, you can use it more easily. Or if someone gets sick, now we can do some of the crisis scenario planning that we do in our office, and we can do it without as many tax consequences. The other thing too, and this has happened a number of times in our office, and in fact I've got a case just like it right now, where the spouse that has the failing health has all of the money in their IRA. And if all the money is in their IRA, that may be an issue, because in order to do spousal type protections, we've got to move things around. We may have to move it from the spouse that's sick into the non-sick spouse's name. Well, the only way to do this, if it's all stuck in an IRA, is to liquidate that whole IRA. And that may have a negative tax consequence that's larger than that family wants to take, but the repercussion of not doing it is paying for the care over and over and over, and leaving that other spouse with less in resources available for their remaining lifetime. So sometimes we have to take a longer view approach, and it's always better to pre-plan rather than plan in a crisis. We have more choices, always. And then another potential scenario to consider is, well, what happens if I pass away and I leave my IRA to my spouse and she rolls it over into her name, which is the traditional way of doing it, the keep it simple, stupid way of doing it. But now she falls ill. She falls and hits her head, or has a stroke, or goes into long-term care. Maybe I drove her there, right? Unfortunately, us guys sometimes drive our ladies into ill health because they're so worried about caring for us that they forget to take care of themselves. But now she has all the IRA money. Now she's sick. The rules are different as it pertains to qualification for a program like Medicaid. And now we may be blowing through that money on them in a way that wasn't the intended way of the use of that money. But when we left it all to them, we don't have the ability to protect it. So the more that you can move into the non-IRA category during your life, now I have the ability to work with you in your estate plan to create things in your will or your trust that would protect from that kind of risk, where we can put it into a trust that's for your spouse's benefit during their lifetime. But if they fall sick, that money isn't the same. But if we leave it all to them in the IRA, and they got the IRA rolled over into their name, and they're taking their RMDs or whatever it might be, we cannot control it from those factors. So the general gist of the entire show today is, if you want to try to protect your estate from risks such as remarriage, risks such as long-term care risk of the surviving spouse, risks such as your kids losing it to their creditors, their bankruptcies, their divorces, their premature deaths, if you want to protect it from your long-term care risk, you must take a proactive approach, in my opinion, to looking at the tax consequences that come from using that IRA money. Because most of us have been, I'll call it, brainwashed to not use that money at all. Tax defer, tax defer, tax defer. That's what has been shoved down our throats. Well, I would argue right now may not be the best time to tax defer, tax defer, tax defer. All depending on lots of scenarios. Talk with your tax person about your personal scenario. But we are in really low tax environment right now. Maybe it makes sense to either save it into a different category, take more of it out on an annual basis, move it into the non-IRA categories. So therefore, now if one of us passes away and we're married, we can protect it for that spouse much more easily, but still have them have the access to it, which is really what we want. We can protect it from their remarriages, their future long-term care risk, etc. And then on the flip side, we can do the same thing for our children or our grandchildren or our other beneficiaries so that it's protected for them as well. And then during your lifetime, by taking it and moving little bits and pieces over, we can protect it from a large liquidation event in the event of a crisis, or we can start moving it into asset protection vehicles such as what we do in our office. Trying to protect your estate from income tax risk. That is the new estate tax, folks. I hate to say it, but they're going to get that money coming or going. They're going to get it from you as you earn it or as you pull it out. And they don't discriminate whether it comes from you or it comes from your children or other beneficiaries. They are going to get their cut. And so, this may sound weird to say, we've got to play the game to win. Because if you just tax defer, and you don't look at other options, other scenarios, the IRS may win the game. They may get more than they would have been entitled to had you played the game. They may get more from you because now you need to take it out in larger chunks to help pay for things that you may need in the house, out of the house, whatever it might be. And it may not all be tax deductible, so you may just have a higher tax bill. You may die and leave it to your spouse. And now their pensions, their other forms of income, their Social Security, and the lower income tax bracket rates, when they take your RMDs, they're paying more tax because now you just added to their RMDs because you've got more money in their IRA. Same thing with the kids. What approach are they going to take? Is it going to be higher tax bracket because they're in their highest wage earning years? What's going on in their lives? What are the tax brackets like? You got to take all of this stuff into account, folks.